Hi friends, welcome back. In spring, I set out to grow some cassava, or also known as yucca, here in Zone 7B, Northern Virginia. And I have been successful at growing the plant, but I don't know if I have been successful at getting a root crop, because what we eat on the yucca is the root, or is it a tuber? Somebody's gonna correct me in the comments. Anyways, so I have two of them here at the front yard, and one of them has fallen over. So here's one of the cassava plants. This one's maybe 5 foot tall, and you can see it's doing really well. And what I did in the spring is I went on Etsy.com and they sent me about 5 pieces that were about maybe 4.5 inches long, something like that. It had a few nodes, and I stuck those in a pot. I grew them out until they rooted, and then I put those rooted cuttings into the ground. And here you can see the original cutting is right here. And then this sprouted from the original cutting. And now this is very woody material. I want to harvest a bit of these and keep them inside my greenhouse and inside my house so I can overwinter them and hopefully have some cassava next year. So I have this plant here that's looking really nice and healthy. So I want to leave that one a little bit longer. We don't have any forecasted frosts in the weather, in the extended forecasts. So for the next 10 days, I don't see any days that we're going to be below freezing. But this one over here has fallen over. And I am so curious to see what they look like that I am willing to harvest this one that is falling over. Even though this is probably the smallest out of all the plants I have, I want to see if anything is happening underneath. So join me as I dig in there and see if I find anything. But before I do that, I am going to take cuttings from this plant. So I'm going to cut off the plant first and hopefully have some usable cuttings. Look at this woody material. And out of here, I should be able to get maybe 5 or 6 good pieces. What happened in the spring is I got really woody pieces, but I got one piece that seemed to be from the top here, and that one died. So I'm assuming the good parts are the woody parts. So here's this beautiful looking plant. The foliage is very pretty, so I love growing it just for the foliage alone. Check it out. A curious note on the leaves. People in Africa actually eat the leaves. It's a traditional food, but it contains a high level of a toxin. I can't remember the name of the toxin. So what you do is you boil it twice, and then you get rid of the toxins. Cassava also has toxins, the root itself, but when you boil it, you render it, and then it's actually consumable and edible for humans. So a lot of the plants that we eat have some sort of chemicals that are not good for us. So I went and looked it up, and it's cyanide. The leaves and the roots have cyanide, but once you cook them, you actually render it useful for humans, or I guess you get rid of it. So I've been eating yucca forever, so I'm not afraid of eating it. But proceed at your own risk and do your own research, I guess. Here's a tiny root that I see, and it's probably the only one that I'm seeing. So I wonder how deep this goes. I'm going to try to do this very gently so I don't break it, so I can get to the bottom of it. So as with anything in life, this is an experiment and we are going to learn from it. It seems like there's not much of a root here. There's one that comes here, goes deep into here, but it's very small and thin. And I see another root here, and it's also quite thin, but this would develop into an actual big root if we had more time. We don't have enough time before the frost, so we have to dig it out. So here's the entire cassava harvest. Oh my goodness, it is so small. And let's see, there's a few roots that are developing that we're going into the area here near to it. But I'm assuming these are not going to have much to them anyways. So I'm not going to be breaking any records by growing cassava here in Northern Virginia. This is a very small root, and man, I wish it was thicker. If it was double the size here, I would say this would be a success. But also this was the smallest plant that kind of struggled all summer long. So I'm hoping some of the other plants have bigger roots, and we'll see what happens. I will be taking this plant and potting it up and hopefully overwintering it inside my house, because since it's so thick and old, hopefully next year it has a lot more vigor and it grows a little bit bigger, maybe. So here's the hole that I just dug, and I don't see any more roots. Also, check out the clay soil was growing on. That probably doesn't help too much. Although, I think if we just had a longer season, we would be able to grow it no problem. So if I was doing this for surviving and farming was my job, this would be a failure for sure. But I have been able to learn what these plants want. And hopefully in the next harvest on the next plant, the root will actually be bigger. I will eat this root because I want to know what it tastes like. Does it taste the same? And I just harvested the root. So here's my tiny little yucca. It's just a root. And over here, I'm going to cut a cross section. Check out that white flesh inside. It is very starchy. And what you got to do is wash it and then boil it and maybe deep fry it. It's gonna make a very small snack. But I have learned and I have experienced how to grow cassava. So here is the plant, and I'm gonna remove all the leaves. I already broke off a piece over there, so I don't want to break another piece. This is broke again as I am saying that. So here is this nice piece of wood and plant material, and I'm going to be taking cuttings about that size. Maybe. Let's see here. So out of this one I can get 2, so I'm gonna get 2 cuttings off of this one, and I'm gonna try to keep them together so I know which side is which. Here you go. This is what the cuttings look like now, and I'm gonna be using this to regrow more cassava. So I got 5 cuttings out of that one branch, and I have this one, which is the tip, which I don't think is going to root. Then I'm going to take the other piece here and try to root that one out as well. We'll see what happens. So there we go. At least I have a good investment. I bought 5 cuttings, and now I have about 10 cuttings here, and I have the mother plant. So next year I can plant these out again, and just the foliage is really nice. So what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to dig a trench this spring, and I'm going to add a lot of good material, a lot of good compost material, so they have a very deep area to get to dig into and hopefully grow bigger roots. That's the hope, at least. I'm going to let these sit on my counter for the next few days, and after they've dried and calloused over, I'm going to put them in a pot of soil, and I'm going to put these inside my greenhouse for a few days, maybe for a month. And in December, when it gets really cold, I'll bring them inside my house. I don't want to risk the greenhouse going below freezing and killing some of my plants again this year. So I am keeping my plants in there as long as I can until we get hard frosts. And then after that, between December, January, and probably all of February, they're going to be inside my house. And then I'll bring them back out in March, and hopefully they can get acclimatized to the weather a little bit faster and root it out real quick. And we'll put these back out in the garden probably in the middle of April next year, a little bit earlier than this year. So here is the root crop. Here is the material I can use again, and if I was really hungry, I could cook up the leaves. I don't think I'm going to be doing that. It's not something I want to be eating. I have a lot of spinach in the garden and a lot of chard, and I'd rather eat those greens. So here we are. Cassava. So if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, and make sure you comment down below if you want to give cassava a try. I bought my cuttings on Etsy, and that's where I buy a lot of my plants. Etsy is an easy place to buy some things. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you on the next one. Thank you so much for watching.